In today's lesson, I'm going to be talking about the king, the master of funk guitar, Nile Rodgers. He's such an iconic guitar player, and there are so many great lessons that we can take from learning about his rhythm guitar style. Things like rhythmic pocket and placement, particularly within a live band context. But we can also apply lots of things to our own rhythm guitar playing and soloing as well, and also apply to different genres as well, so don't feel like you're stuck playing with funk, although that's no bad thing. There are quite a lot of concepts that I want to talk about in this lesson, and I'm going to walk you through things like chordal fragments, left and right hand technique, fret hand mutes, Nile's infamous half-held chord, modal interchange, slash chords. There's lots to talk about. My name's Steve Allsworth. Welcome to my channel. Let's get to it. So before we begin, it's quite useful to look at the harmony of what we're playing here, just to really develop an understanding of the chords and how they relate to one another. We're essentially in the key of D minor, so the home chord is a D minor 7. I'm going to come back to this a few times and do some variations on this as well. But if we look at the chords in their most basic form, the chord progression is quite straightforward. It goes as follows: G major, B flat major, C major, D minor 7. Then the second half goes G minor 7, A minor 7, D minor 7. All pretty straightforward, all root position chords. And we are going to do some variations on these and make them sound a little bit more sophisticated with some ad-libs and so on. Now, Nile's a bit of a jazzer at heart, even though he's a funk guitar player. So he does slightly more sophisticated versions of these chords. The first of which is this chord here. We're playing 7th fret on the bottom string, miss out the 5th string, then 7, 7 barred, and then your little finger takes that G there. What this actually is a variation on that G major chord. This is what we call a first inversion. So the B there is in the bass, and then we're playing this kind of G sus2 on the top here. So instead of this being G major, we're actually playing the sus2 version of that chord, and then putting the 3rd in the bass. And it creates this really nice, subtle variation on our G major chord there, all right? But essentially it's the same chord. We're thinking of that as a G major. Now the second chord, instead of it being a B flat major chord, we're just going to raise the root note up a tone. This is a super common funk disco trick, and you heard it all over the place. So what we end up doing is playing what we call a slash chord. So we're playing a chord, a triad, in this case a B flat, with a C in the bass. And later on it's going to be the bass guitar that takes this, but for now we'll play this on guitar. So this is what we call a B flat over C. So here we've got the 3rd finger playing the C there at the 8th fret. Again, miss out the 5th string. Little finger takes the B flat there on the 8th fret of the 4th string. 7, and then 6 on the 2nd string. And then we move that up 2 frets. This is going to be C over D. And then we go to D minor 7. And then we can keep this pretty straightforward here. G minor 7, A minor 7, D minor 7. So I want to talk about chord fragments. These are really designed for you to cut through the mix, particularly when you're playing with bass, drums, keys, things like this. Often these full chord shapes that I showed you before, they can start to sound a bit muddy and not really cut through enough. So really often in funk, we play the top 2, 3, maybe 4 strings. It gives it more of a percussive trebly sound, which enables you to cut through the mix a lot more. Now what this will mean is the chords that we had a little bit earlier on are a little bit easy to play in the fret hand. The first chord, our little G sus2 shape there, is just 7, 7, 8 on the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings. Just bar with the first finger and the second finger, super simple. And the second chord B flat major, instead of the full shape, we just play the top 4 strings. Really simple. Move that up 2 frets, excuse me. That gives us a C major chord, and then we go down to D minor 7. And notice here that I'm not playing the root note D. I'm just going from the 3rd finger there, which is on the 5th, on the A. And the next step, rather than play the full G minor 7 chord shape, we're just going to play a nice easy chord shape there, which is just a bar. Bar the top 4 strings over the 3rd fret there. That's our G minor 7 chord. Move that up 2 positions, that'll give us an A minor 7, and then we're back to the start again on that D minor 7th chord. Now, a good place to start with this is to think about what's going on in both hands, and we need to start thinking about fret hand mutes. Fret hand mutes are crucial to any funk rhythm, and this will give you even more of a percussive sound. So we've got those little chord fragments, and we're also doing some fret hand mutes. So the key to this particular style is just getting the coordination right between the 2 hands. So what I would do as a practice is just take one of the chords, let's just say for example this B flat major chord, and practice this idea of squeezing and letting go enough that you create that mute. So what I'd like you to try as a practice is go chord, on the upstroke do a mute, and then 2 more chords, down, up, mute, chord, mute, mute. And it's this kind of delicate dance that this fret hand is playing here, just between squeezing and letting go enough just to mute those strings. And this is where we can start to devote a little bit more time thinking about what the pick hand is doing. It's all about coordination between the 2 hands, obviously. But what is really important here is that it's a constant 16th note motion. That is 1 Eana, 2 Eana, 3 Eana, 4 Eana. So we're fitting 16 of those down and up strokes in to a bar, or 4 of those into a strong beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now key to this is keeping this nice and loose and bouncy and light. What we don't want to see happen is all of your rotation coming from the elbow, this kind of stiff up and down motion. This will not sound very good. Likewise, what we don't want to be seeing is this sort of opening the doorknob kind of motion where your sort of forearm is rotating like this. What you should find is that you get a little bit of bounce and rotation in the wrist and a slight amount of movement in the elbow here. And this way we can maintain that constant 16th note motion. Notice that we're not touching any part of the guitar body. If you can, try and avoid using your little finger or any other fingers to touch the scratch plate on the guitar. Keep that nice and free. And if you can, just tuck the fingers in ever so slightly. Splayed is okay, but it's a little bit better and more efficient if you can keep them slightly tucked in. And then we can try that rhythm that we had earlier on. Down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Really concentrate on where you're squeezing those chords in. And then what I would do is just use that same chord progression that we had earlier on, and then change chords every 2 beats. So we're playing on the 1 and then on the 3. We're almost there with this now. We've got the 2 hands hopefully working in tandem with one another. The final piece of the puzzle with this is to do what we call a 16th note push. This is effectively where we're pushing into one of our downbeats. This can be the 1, the 2, the 3 or the 4. Typically this happens, we're pushing into beat 1 or pushing into beat 3. So this is the last 16th note before that downbeat. So this will normally happen on an upstroke. So for example, if I just show you this on a B flat chord, what we're going to do is push into beat 3. And we just do an upstroke there just before beat 3. And notice we're finishing with the upstroke. And what we'll do is very definitely, we're just playing the last 16th note there before we hit that downbeat. Down, down, up, up, up. Okay? So the secret sauce here is changing chord when you do those pushes. We've got a little variation on the rhythm. It's almost like a little mirror of the first rhythm that we had. If I just show you this on the B flat chord, down, down, up, 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 down, down, up. Down, down, up, 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 down, down, up, down, down, up, up, down, down, up. Once we put this together, we can try this with the whole of the chord progression. So really the final part of this is to do what I would call Nile's half-held chord. This is a bit of a tricky one to explain, but essentially what it is this technique lies somewhere between a full mute and a fully fretted chord. So if we take this B flat chord as our example here, so I'm just squeezing in the left hand just a little bit, but not enough. So this is nothing to do with the pick hand, this is all from the fret hand. And this is where we can start to do this on the ad-libs on our D minor 7 chord shape. So one of the ad-libs that we've actually got here is really simple. We've got our D minor 7 chord and we can just use the little finger there. This is actually one of the notes inside the chord. So that little finger there can just cover that top string there as an ad-lib. It's really, really simple improvised idea that we can use anytime we hit that D minor 7 chord. And one of Nile's other tricks here when we're hitting a D minor 7 chord is to just move the little finger down a string, and this will give us a D7 sus4 sound. So notice we've got that top string and ringing through there. You've got to be careful not to flatten that fourth finger. And this will give us that kind of good times. And this we can use right at the end of the riff. So if we put the whole thing together, and that is the whole thing together, then we can start to play along with the backing track.